So can Trueplay really correct a bad sounding room? Now we can spend a lot of money buying equipment, buying soundbars or even high-end audio systems. But if you are putting it in a bad room with bad acoustics, you're not going to be doing it justice, and you can spend all the money you want and you won't get the results that you are desiring. Now, my space has been cleared up. I think I did the last video. I cleared up the entire room. It's now free of clutter, but it also means that the whole space is actually kind of bare, right? You look at this bare wall behind me. So the walls are parallel. It's a rectangular room. It's full of hard surfaces. There's a whole window right there. Well, the floor is carpeted, but there's not much else. So when I'm hearing myself in the room, I can kind of hear the echo. Now, why is an acoustically bad space bad for your equipment? Well, because sound bounces too much. Now, you think about a movie theater, right? You go to a movie theater, the walls are heavily lined with materials, soft materials that will absorb the sound. The ceiling has acoustic panels, and the entire floor is carpeted, not to mention that the seats are all big and comfy, and they absorb a lot of the reflections and the sound. Now compare that to a cave. Now, if you have ever been to a cave, a large cavernous area, you clap and you shout out, the echo bounces back. You hear yourself back a few times, right? And something closer to home, if you've not been to a cave before, compare with your closet where you hang a lot of clothes or all your winter clothing, the thick, heavy material, and you speak inside. There's very little echo. You can hear yourself very well. Now, if you move to the toilet where it's full of mirrors and hard surfaces and glass shower screen, you're going to hear a lot of echoes. So you may not think that a room shape matters much, but my room here is fully rectangular, all four 90 degrees corners here. And the sound waves will just bounce from one wall to the next and from the left to the right, and it keeps going on. So it does sound terrible, right? Yeah, especially if the walls are not treated. So there are a couple of things that you can do. You can line the walls with acoustic panels, which absorbs sound, or you can use sound diffusers, which are basically irregular shaped surfaces which will break up and disperse the sound waves. Now, it doesn't mean that reflections are bad, because not all reflections are bad. If you look at modern soundbars, they actually have side-firing speakers and they have high-firing drivers as well. So those relies on the principle of reflections to get the sound to your ears, and tricking you into thinking that they're coming from directions other than where the soundbar is. So you do need a bit of reflection, but what you want to cut down is the multiple reflections that keeps going on and on beyond the intended first reflection. Now I have an ERA 300 right behind me here. And the ERA 300 has both side-firing speakers and top-firing speakers. Now, if you think about how the ERA 300 works, it recreates side surrounds as well as rear surrounds. Now, side surrounds, it will fire sounds to the side walls, which will bounce back to you, and you think that they're coming from your left and right in a surround manner. Now, rear surrounds, it will fire the sound to the rear wall, and it will bounce to your ears, and you will think that it is actually coming from the rear. For the top firing speakers on top of the ERA 300, it will fire towards the ceiling and it will bounce back down. So all this is good. You do need a certain degree of bounce and reflection in your room in order to achieve the surround effect. So when that works badly is when the bounce is uncontrolled and it keeps going on. So besides the couple of things that you can do to your room, like laying carpets and draping the windows with heavy curtains, as well as putting sound diffusers, what else can you do? Now, for Sonos owners, you have access to what is known as Trueplay. Now, Trueplay is a rather ingenious kind of implementation of room correction, right? So it uses your phone. In this particular case, it's an iPhone. It uses the onboard mic to measure the sounds that are coming out from your system. So your system, your Sonos soundbar or your ERA 300 and the Sub will actually emit a note. And that note, Sonos knows how it sounds like, but when it's played in your room, it bounces and the peak might peak overly and the trough, the valleys might dip unexpectedly. Now, when that happens, Sonos listens to their note and realizes that, hey, that is not what it's supposed to sound like. It sounds reinforced or it sounds lacking, and it will adjust the frequency to match what it thinks it should be. Now, there is, of course, a Sonos sound signature which you really want to preserve, and that is taken care of by Trueplay. Now, Trueplay is broken down into two stages. I will go through the 2 stages. I've done the 2 stages and I film it down as well. So let's go through that. So the first phase is when you're sitting in your main listening position. In your main listening position, what Trueplay does is it measures the distance from where you are to the speaker. So when the speakers are firing off, you want the note to reach your ears at the same time, because not everybody has the luxury of positioning the speakers exactly where they want it. Sometimes your rear surround, the left and the right is at different distances. So you do need to take care of that, and Trueplay does that for you. So that's what the phase 1 of Trueplay does. It measures the distances and it ensures that sound reaches you at the exact same time from the speakers to your main listening position. Now in the step 2 of Trueplay, this is really where the room correction comes in and when the magic happens, right? You're going to walk around the room as demonstrated by this lady here. And when you do that, you're waving your phone up and down. Now, this step of where you walk in the room and how you wave the phone is going to dramatically impact how Trueplay determines how much to correct, right? So by right, when you perform this step, it will actually hear from different parts of your room how the sound is sounding, and it will correct the whole sound signature accordingly. Does that work? Now, that is a very tricky question to answer. It will change the sound, but does it change the sound to your liking? It may or it may not. Now, you're going to do Trueplay once, twice, 3 times, multiple times. Every time you do Trueplay, there's a high likelihood that you will get a slightly different result. So you might have to perform Trueplay for a couple of times to make sure that you are liking the results. So I've done it a couple of times. I picked one which I think truly epitomizes how Trueplay tries to help the situation, right? So like I said, this is the bedroom and I have done the Trueplay. Let me just pull out the chart here. Now, if you take a look at what is happening, the red curve represents the before Trueplay is done, and the green curve represents what happens after Trueplay is applied. So I'll go through this in a few steps, right? If you look at the frequencies below 45 Hertz, right, you'll see that the green curve where Trueplay is being applied, it pushes up the bass a little bit. So Sonos detected that, well, maybe something in the room is eating up the bass, and the bass should be a little bit higher, the really low end of the bass below 45 Hertz, and it pushes it up a little bit. But what is interesting is from 45 Hertz onwards, right, all the way up to the upper bass section of maybe 200 Hertz, you are going to be looking at a reduction throughout the entire range. Slight reduction, except this point here, which is quite significant. You're looking at a couple of decibels here, where Trueplay feels that the room is re-emphasizing the bass a little bit too much and it brings it down. So this is probably the standing waves where Trueplay is trying to reduce, right? Standing waves meaning that the bass frequencies from the subs are bouncing and they are reinforcing each other and is bouncing through the room multiple times. So it tries to bring that down to reduce the perception of flabby bass, of overly emphasized bass notes. Now, when you move into the mid-range frequencies, right, from 200 Hertz all the way up to about a kilohertz or so, right, at this point, you'll notice that Trueplay also brings things down a little bit. So this whole range, you can see that is actually quite subdued, right? Now, this is where vocals live, right? So when you hear dialogue from your material, from your source material, you're going to hear them bounce around the room. So Sonos detects that, well, Trueplay, this is where Trueplay needs to come in, and it will have to bring down those frequencies because those are a little bit louder and hotter than what it's supposed to be. So this will have the perception of reducing the bounce in the dialogue. So it should make dialogue a little bit more intelligible. Now, all the way from 1 kilohertz to about 3 kilohertz or so, you are going to see that Trueplay really did nothing much there. So it is pretty clean. Trueplay didn't do anything. But what is very interesting is in the treble response range, this part here, it actually moves it down quite a bit. So you're going to be reducing a lot of treble response, right, when you apply Trueplay in this particular case, in this instance of Trueplay. Now, maybe the room is really too active, too live, right? And the treble sounds are bouncing all over the place. Like I mentioned before, a bit of treble bounce is not that bad because treble actually emphasizes the surround effect, and any system will use treble to kind of like enhance the surround effect. But what Sonos is doing here, what Trueplay did, was to bring it down a notch because I think the room is being a little bit too reflective because of the big blank wall behind me right here. All right, so this is all that Trueplay has done to my room. Do I enjoy the sound a little bit better after Trueplay is done? Well, I do feel that it's a little bit flatter. If you ask me whether it has rescued the sound, I don't really think that it has, but it may warrant a few more Trueplay runs just to find the optimal profile. Now, the problem with the Sonos system is that once you do a Trueplay, it overrides the previous Trueplay. So if there is a function that Sonos is going to implement in a future release of the S2M, it is to allow multiple Trueplay profiles, right? So that you can switch between the Trueplay profiles that you have done previously, maybe 3 to 5, or even, I don't know, you don't need 10, but 3 to 5 Trueplay profiles where you can switch and you can hear that, okay, maybe this is the sound profile that I want for the particular material that I'm listening to right now. So, well, probably a nice feature request if Sonos engineers are up for it. All right, so this is all I have for today's video. I hope it has answered a question I think one of you posted and asked on my previous video, whether Trueplay does help with the bare room that I have. Now, there are a couple of things I'm going to be doing in the next month or so. I'm going to have the wall behind me done up with sound absorbing materials, and these are slated wood panels, which does two things. One, it acts as a diffraction. It will break up the sound waves, and two, there are materials behind that will absorb the sound. So it should turn the whole blank wall behind me into some kind of like a data space to improve the acoustic of the room. Now, I don't like the way I'm sounding in this room. I don't know whether you can hear or not, but the room is a little bit echoey right now at the moment. And I'm going to be putting a recliner couch in the room. I know this room is really small, but the couch will take up quite a bit of space, and it is a slightly softer material, and it will absorb the sound from the room. So that in itself should be able to enhance the sound quality. Now, if you found this video useful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if not already. I cover a lot of Sonos content on this channel, but basically anything wireless audiophile and any tech related material that fancies me. And I'll catch you in one of my videos that I put up here.